Hi y'all, this is Austin's Animals, and welcome to another flea market pickups video. I did very well at the flea market this weekend. I actually went to 2 different flea markets, and I did fantastic at both, which never happens. My family, we like to do 2 different flea markets. They're close by, they're only about 20 minutes from each other. Usually the second one is where I do very well, but the first one I actually did pretty good at, so I guess we'll just start from the beginning with the first big find of the day. This was at flea market number uno, and this one can be a little higher priced. There's a lot of collectible antique booths. A lot of the toy booths are like vendors you would see at conventions and antique stores, so you're not going to find any dollar figures here. But I did find these. These are Christmas ornaments from The Year Without a Santa Claus. If you've watched this channel, you can tell behind me, I love the stop-motion Rankin Bass Christmas specials. Rudolph, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Peter Cottontail, Rudolph Shiny New Year, all those great specials. The Year Without a Santa Claus is really wonderful. But they didn't make a whole lot of merchandise for it. It had a pretty fantastic action figure line in the 2000s. I believe Palisades Toys made those, but they go for hundreds of dollars now. They're way out of my price range. But I did find some of the ornaments, and this vendor had a lot of Rudolph ornaments. I think they were priced at like $10, $12 each, which is retailable without shipping, so that's a very fair price on those. I had like a Clarice and a Yukon Cornelius, and I'm like, it's hard to pull the trigger early into the flea market. I think this was like aisle 2. You don't want to spend your budget for the day on Christmas ornaments when down the aisle there's something really good. But these ones, because of The Year Without a Santa Claus, they stuck out to me. I'm like, you don't see merchandise of these, so I bought these blindly, and the vendor's a very nice guy. He gave me a good deal bundling both these. I will say the sculpts on these are pretty awful. They're pretty bad. Like, look at Mrs. Claus here. She looks like she's had way too much eggnog. Ugh. And then we have Jingle, Jangle, and Vixen. If you've seen the special, these are Santa's elves that he sends down to Earth to go to Southtown and talk to the kids. And then there's Vixen the reindeer. This one's pretty good. So I bought these. They were made by NECA, interestingly enough, the action figure company, which might explain why they're so terrible. Like a figure company that did not understand Christmas ornaments. There's a poem on the back here. I'm going to read that. It says, "The sleigh was in the shed, Santa was in bed. Covered up with blankets, his nose all rosy red. Santa had a cold, and the story that was told passed throughout the land, from young to very old. Now the gang's all here, elves and tiny reindeer, to tell you the tale of that fateful funny year." I guess that's kind of the special, but not really. Like, Santa is sick with a cold, but the reason he wants to take Christmas off is because the doctor tells him that, like, kids don't believe in Christmas anymore. So Santa has to come down to the town and tell kids to believe in Christmas. It's a really cute special. You should watch it. So I got home and I looked these up, and these are really, really extraordinarily difficult to find. I was actually shocked on what the prices for these are for what are frankly some ugly Christmas ornaments. But I guess I'm not the only one that really likes this special, and if you want to collect it, it's kind of starved for merchandise. Which is funny, because Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which is interestingly in the same continuity, I think Rudolph might even show up in Year Without a Santa Claus at one point. There's so much Rudolph stuff to buy. Like, look at all this behind me. But Year Without a Santa Claus ornaments, so that's pretty cool. And is that it for flea market one? Oh, one more. Oh, okay. Who's this? Do you know who this is? This is the dad from Hop, the horrible Easter movie I've mentioned previously with Russell Brand in it. It's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. It's a terrible film, but I like it. I just kind of tangentially Rankin Bass, because it is implied that the dad was Peter Cottontail, or some version of the character, and now he's got to pass, the mantle down to the new Easter Bunny. It's kind of the hip, wisecracking, played by Russell Brand and Cody Simpson. It's so 2010. Oh my goodness. But this was a Burger King toy, believe it or not. As an action figure, it's but as a Burger King toy, it's pretty good. And what's funny is they didn't make Hop action figures. I have EB, I think one other. And they made a figure of the dad, and this looks better than the actual figure they sold at stores. How sad is that? He's got a little action feature. You pull his tail. That's it. That's what he does. Yep. His kid's like, his kid walks up and he's like, Daddy, we want to eat. And he's like, here you go. Here's some breadcrumbs for lunch. There you go. But you know, $1. How can I turn it down? And then, oh, Wanda, Flea Market number 2. So Flea Market number 2, we'll start with this one here. Yep, it's Lord Farquaad from Shrek. I loved Shrek growing up. I was a massive Shrek kid. I had a Shrek birthday party. I remember I got the Shrek ears, and I wore them around the house all day. And people had to call me Shrek, or else they were going to be expelled from my life. But I had all the Shrek toys, so I do have legitimate nostalgia for these action figures. And they've gotten pretty collectible on the aftermarket, especially the first movie. So the first Shrek came out, and they didn't know it was going to be a big hit with the kids. You know, DreamWorks was kind of taking a risk with that movie. So what they did was they gave the license to McFarlane Toys, which is the company that makes Spawn. They're more of an adult collector company. So they made the Shrek 1 toy line as kind of a hybrid line. It's an adult figure line. It's got all the details of the adult Spawn figures, but they were marketed towards kids. What you get is a beautiful action figure line. Look up the Shrek 1 movie line. It might be one of the finest figure lines ever produced. McFarlane really cared about the detail and the quality, and who knows, maybe the fact that I grew up with these figures is why I became such a big toy person, because they were nice figures. I mean, the Shrek has like a metal chain as his weapon, like seriously real metal, and even 3-year-old Austin with his Shrek toys knew that these were cool figures. So this is Lord Farquaad from the first movie. He's missing his knight armor that clicks on, but who needs that? I mean, it's a wonderful sculpt. It's a great interpretation of the character. Look at that head. It's a head only a mother could love. Actually, if you want to know something funny, that head is modeled and based off of Michael Eisner, the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Yes, really, because Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the head of DreamWorks and the founder, had a beef with Disney. They split up. Katzenberg came from Disney, so he kind of viewed his tarnished relationship with Michael Eisner as betrayal. So he made him the villain of his movie. If you watch Shrek through the lens of the Disney-DreamWorks feud, it is a fascinating movie because they don't pull back the punches on Disney, especially when they go to Duloc and, you know, they have the line queue set up and all the rides. So, yeah, it's an action figure of Michael Eisner, so he can boss everyone around Disneyland. That would be a fun display to make all of Duloc from the movie with the castle. And I know they made the park employees as one of the figures in the Shrek line. Like, he came with a ticket booth and a line queue. It's hilarious. But yeah, the Shrek figures, you don't see them anymore. It's been over 20 years since these came out in 2001. That makes me feel really old. And they're quite desirable on the aftermarket, so I was happy to find this. And again, I only paid $1, so can't complain. Okay, next up, we have some Sonic comics. I always buy Sonic comics when I see them. I love the series. I've read them all. They're all available online if you want to read them. But the physical comics can be quite difficult to find. It's surprising, given how well this series is done, that you don't see... Excuse me now. You don't see them more often. But I always dig through piles of superhero comics, hoping that one day I'm going to find just a giant, one of those long boxes of Sonic the Hedgehog comics. But you just see them every now and then. I think I paid $2 each for these. So the first one is number 69. So we've got a double digit, pretty early in the run here, with I honestly, all of my friends, the Sonic characters I grew up with, you got Antoine the Coyote, you know, Tails the Fox, who was fantastic in the new Sonic movie. If you haven't seen Sonic 2 in the theater, you should go see it. I actually really enjoyed it. I was shocked. I think it was like the first good piece of Sonic media I've seen since the Sonic Adventure games. I really enjoyed it. It was really good. So I imagine these might actually go up now that people have seen the film. I was really shocked that, you know, these are kind of Sega's black sheep in the sense that the characters that show up in this comic are not in the video games. It follows its own continuity that is based off the Saturday morning cartoon from the 90s. So, you know, even though Sonic is clearly pictured on the front here, front and center, the main character of the comics is really Sally Acorn, the princess and ruler of what's called the Knothole Kingdom, and kind of her princess struggles. There's a really great interview that Midnight's Edge did, one of my favorite YouTube channels, with one of the writers, where they kind of explained that the Sonic the Hedgehog comic was the best-selling girls comic in the 2000s. It had like a 65% female readership, so a lot of the stories reflected that. Yes, Sonic does battle Eggman like the games, but you also have a lot of drama and relationships and soap opera, and that's kind of what makes the comics so fun, is I love seeing the characters from the game and the TV show interact and have little feuds. This one here, this was sort of a bizarre era where they were trying to do like tabloid covers. I kind of see what they're going for, but I don't think it really worked out. Having said that, the character designs themselves look pretty fantastic here. And we've got Sonic, and this was Princess Sally's brother that they added late in the series. Princess Sally was kind of a popular character among the fans. People loved her. So they're like, oh, we'll add her brother in, and he'll be just as popular. Didn't really work out, but, you know, they tried, they experimented, they did all sorts of things, and it's fun to just pick one of these up and read, because especially the old advertisements in them, too. Like, these comics are old, so there's some fun stuff. And the artwork. The artwork is just absolutely fantastic. Okay, so for the final haul of the day, I did very well with a lot of Zootopia stuff. I got Zootopia on Blu-ray, which I just watched it on DVD with my girlfriend Sarah, the love of my life. Love you, Sarah, if you're watching. And had a really wonderful time. The movie holds up fantastic on a rewatch. I saw it about, oh my god, 6 years ago now when it came out in the theater. I was there opening night. I was so excited. And I remember initially being really let down by Zootopia. I was not impressed by it. But when you watch it again, you realize that the movie's pretty fantastic. If I had to guess on why I originally didn't like it, I saw it when I was 16 and I wanted a police action film with all this world and this characters, and the movie's called Zootopia. I think they're in Zootopia for a total of 15 minutes in the movie. They're hardly in the town. They're always in the suburbs, in the bunny town that Judy lives in, the Arctic town that kind of borders Zootopia. Like, they're never even there. There's even a line where, like, Judy tells Nick, she's like, you're selling popsicle pops outside of Zootopia jurisdiction and you're not paying your taxes. I'm like, we're not even in Zootopia. We never are. And the characters in the film, I think the characters get about 2 minutes of screen time each. This movie really focuses on Nick and Judy, and everything else around them is kind of a blip in the movie. Like this character here, Clawhauser, he got a ton of merchandise. I remember thinking like he was going to be some big character. He's hardly in the film. But if you look at the movie as just a Nick and Judy movie, they carry the film, and their chemistry is so fantastic. They are like, honestly, they're the most adorable couple. Really, I never even occurred to me watching the movie, because, you know, I was still a teenager, and I was kind of in the, cooties, I want the action in my cop film. But it's a charming, romantic comedy. It excels as that. Nick and Judy are charming, and I want a Nick and Judy TV show that's just like the case files of Nick and Judy, because they've kind of got this, the classic, what's the word I'm looking for? Like cop relationship. Like the best example I'm thinking of is like Mulder and Scully from the X-Files. I only know that show because my mother likes it and it's on in the background. Do those characters love each other? Are they romantic? Oh my god, I don't want to say that and then like find out in the comments that like they're a cop and daughter team. But I know they have good chemistry. And these two have good chemistry. And they're definitely interested in each other. Didn't pick up on that the first time I watched it. But watching it again with my girlfriend, yes. Nick and Judy are an item, absolutely. But Zootopia is kind of in that sweet spot of collecting. I found a bunch of Zootopia stuff in the past. I usually pick it up for cheap just because I go, they'll look good in the Critter Town. But, you know, after seeing the movie again, I kind of want to collect the line. Like, I kind of got the Zootopia itch, and I want to do a little display in the Critter Town. I thought this line would be pretty difficult to track down, because some of the items are really expensive online. But it's in that sweet spot, where it's not 10 years old, it's not retro or vintage, but it's also not new. So it's kind of like that uncool phase. It's like, oh, that's a brand from a few years ago. That's like a second-rate brand. So you find this stuff a lot at the flea market, and it's all really cheap. I see all sorts of Zootopia stuff, you know, puzzles and blankets and stuff like that. So I'm kind of just like picking and choosing, going, I like that, I like that. It's too much to collect. So I got some fun stuff here. Let's take a look. The first one is the male Lionheart figure, played by J.K. Simmons, the great Cave Johnson in the Portal games. And this is a fun figure. Nicely articulated. Good sculpting. Again, though, he's hardly in the movie. Hardly. But I guess for a play scenario, he'd make a good bad guy, because he's a corrupt mayor. He's evil. Spoilers, if you haven't seen the movie. It's 6 years old. You should see it. But yeah. Okay. And then I got Flash. There he is. Flash. 100-yard dash. And this is not the basic figure. I don't even know if he was in the figure line now that I think about it. No, he didn't have an action figure. He was only available in the Funko line, which is what this one is from. Funko kind of did a line of, like, stylized figures. I remember I had a couple of them when the movie came out. I had, like, Mr. Big, and then whatever guy Tommy Chong is playing. The nudist colony yak. But it's a charming, cute figure. But I got a story with this figure, okay? So I go in the booth, and I'm digging around, and it was a pretty good toy booth. A lot of fun PVCs. And I'm like, oh, that's a good one. This is a good one here, because this is a Funko blind box figure. He goes for about $15 loose. So I think I bought him for $1. You know, I paid the lady, and I walked out of the booth, and I'm leaving, and this guy goes, hey, stop, thief. And it's the lady's husband. He thought I was stealing the toy. He's like, thief. And I'm like, I paid for it. I talked to your wife. I just gave her $1 for this thing. Like, why? Plus, like, let's say I really am, you know, a sly fox, just like Judy stereotypes in Zootopia, right? I'm just taking flash 100-yard dash here. Would you run after a guy who's taking a dollar figure? I mean, really, it's such a stupid. It was sitting in the hot sun in a bin. It was like junk. I don't know. Like, I thought that was hilarious. But, you know, I never steal. I would never do that. I paid. Heck, I overpay for some items. If I think the item's too cheap, I'll pay more and go, I want this. Here you go. I try to be the nicest person at the flea market. So, I don't know what that was about, but they were not the friendliest people. But hey, I got Flash. That's what matters, right? Now I can play DMV. What kid doesn't want the DMV employee as an action figure? Who do you want, kid? Do you want corrupt politician or DMV employee? Who do you want to play as? See why kids like Nick and Judy? Who are these guys? Oh, and he's a criminal too. He's speeding at the end of the movie in his hot rod. Okay, the final thing I got was the Nick and Judy Disney Infinity figures. These were the ones I bought when the movie came out. I remember I had these on my desk. I got rid of them when I got rid of all my Disney Infinity Toys to Life stuff. The whole Toys to Life thing, it was a great fad, and not much more than a fad. I think we all kind of got suckered in this idea that you'd buy one Disney Infinity game and Disney would support it for years to come. I remember them saying that you would never need to buy a Disney video game again, that they would support Infinity forever. So what happens less than a year after Disney Infinity comes out? They come out with another Disney Infinity, and you have to spend $100 to upgrade. They did that again. And it was like, if you wanted to play and enjoy Disney Infinity, you had to spend like $1,000. It was completely ridiculous. So, yeah. The game also, it was okay. Interestingly enough, it was based off of the Toy Story 3 video game, which, I kid you not, is one of the best video games ever. The Toy Story 3 video game is amazing, and they knew it, so they took that game and they made it into Disney Infinity. But Disney Infinity is not as good as the Toy Story 3 video game. I don't know, it just always felt incomplete to me. And the fact that you can't play as the characters in other worlds kind of makes the game not fun. Like, here's Nick, for example. So when you tap this in the game, you get to play as Nick Wilde, and Nick Wilde can only play in Zootopia. He can't go to the Incredibles Force, which is a shame, because I really want to see Jason Bateman as a fox just tear stuff up and just knock down Syndrome. It'd be amazing. But didn't happen. The game flopped, it's long gone, but some of the figures they made are really awesome, and they're great as just figures. Forget the game aspect, they're fun just to collect and look at. The Zootopia ones in particular were some of the last released in the line, and it shows. They have a lot of great detail. This Nick figure here, this might be one of my favorite figure interpretations of Nick. Not only do they have his sly fox face, like, down, but they also sculpted his Hawaiian shirt. And they didn't just give him a green button-up, paint it. They actually sculpted in the Hawaiian pattern, which it looks really nice. It's a great figure. Judy here also looks pretty fantastic. They nailed the face sculpt. Some of the Judy merchandise, it's a difficult face to get down with a lot of detail, but they did a really great job. Now, interestingly enough, she does have a tranquilizer gun, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not in the movie. This isn't the one that that Bellwether uses at the end, right? I don't think it is. I think this is from an earlier cut in the movie. Well, maybe it is. I see the little dot there. Okay, if you're in the comments, let me know. Is this the gun that male Bellwether uses at the end of the movie? And if it is, why does Judy have it? Again, I've talked about how the Zootopia toys are weird because they're based off an earlier script in the film. Zootopia was made in the editing bay, and they didn't have enough time to make toys for the new version of the film. So a lot of the stuff that came out when the film first released isn't in the movie or doesn't look anything like the movie. And then the merchandise that came later on is the stuff in the movie. So, especially with, like, I was looking at some of the children's books are like totally different scenes that are in the film that were cut. And the Tomy action figure line also suffers from that. So, here's the Infinity Nick and Judy. Definitely some of my favorite interpretations of the characters. Really cool. And also only a couple bucks. Nobody wants these now. These are cheap. So, all in all, a really amazing, amazing flea market haul. I got Rankin Bass. I got Zootopia. I even got some Sonic comics. You know, you kind of find one of everything. Nothing here is like, you know, a holy grail, oh my god. So these are pretty amazing. But it's like, I found a slice of everything I love, and I can't complain about that. You know, you get up early in the morning, you get your coffee, you get your exercise, and you get a tiny figure of Michael Eisner. Let me tell you about the Disney decade. You're gonna love Dick Tracy's Crime Fighters. When it opens in Disneyland, you're never. And I mean, that was it. Like, when are we gonna go to Westcott, Mr. Eisner? Never. You will go to California Adventure, and you will like it. Ooh. Bye!